Welcome to another episode of this awesome podcast. We have the best guests on, a lot of guests that nobody else has, at least in this arena. We've had people like Dr. Anmal Kapoor, who's a heart specialist. We've had Dr. Ovadia, another heart specialist. We like to dive into the weeds of how to be the best you ever, how to optimize your life, how to live longer, and how to perform. I'm really excited about today. We have a man known as Derek Alessi, and we're going to go over some things. And he is an expert on so many subjects. He's worked with athletes right now. He's working with some older people and helping them optimize their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Derek Alessi, what's up, brother?
Hey, Marc, how you doing?
I couldn't be better. I'm sitting here. I'm doing this awesome podcast. I'm not in a board meeting, which can get tedious. We need to come up with something that makes board meetings suck less. If we could come out with that, we'd be actually, how many people in the Gen Pop actually go? It's kind of like training professional athletes, where it's like, I'm going to train professional athletes. And then you realize there's no money in it. You're like, I'm going to go train the Gen Pop. So maybe I take that back, because it's a very, very small group of people who actually partake in board meetings on a daily basis. But man, so tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you can help people.
You know, on that note, maybe we have the board meetings where everybody has to hold it in a plank or something like that, or a push-up contest.
You haven't seen the people in these board meetings. They couldn't hold a plank.
It'd be a short meeting.
So they have those. I know it was vogue in the 90s. They had those 15-minute meetings where it was like you had a max of 15 minutes. I forgot who it was. It was Lee Iacocca or something. And so he's like, at 15 minutes, timer goes off, meeting's over. Doesn't matter if someone's mid-sentence. Maybe we could do like a 2-minute meeting with the plank.
With the plank, yeah, exactly. As I mentioned, it would be a short meeting for a lot of folks, no doubt.
Amazing.
To give you some background about me, it's really simple and easy. You know, what do I have to do with health, fitness, and nutrition? And the answer is, initially I was just going to be a dentist. So my story is the fact that I was not looking to be an exercise scientist and a nutritionist. I was going to go to dental school. And when people ask, why did you want to be a dentist? It was really two reasons. Number one is I had an uncle who had a successful dentistry business, and I was following in his footsteps. And number two is I had a 44-inch waist, and I weighed about 240-ish pounds or so in undergrad. So I was the furthest thing from health, fitness, nutrition, or anything athletic. So luckily, in my undergrad, I had to take prerequisites in exercise science, which was a new field in the late 1980s. And it spoke to me. I fell in love with it because I knew I needed to change myself. So in about 16 months or so, I went from 240-ish or so pounds down to 157 and on the stage of a bodybuilding show.
Really? So you competed?
I competed. I was on stage.
How'd that go?
Awful. So every part of it was awful, other than the training. I really enjoyed the training.
Dude, competing is so bad. It's so unhealthy. Like I have this viral clip. I was on a Jubilee video where it was steroids versus natural guys. And the prompt was, are steroids unhealthy? And I said, no. And the reason is the nuance of the question, which obviously went over everybody's head. I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm just, for some reason, but people don't understand cholesterol is a chemical steroid, that, steroids are in your body. Steroids are naturally produced. My premise was you can't make an absolute statement unless you define the context. Steroids are not unhealthy. Prednisone, working with people with muscular dystrophy. You got HRT for men and women as they age, menopausal women, postmenopausal women. And then I argued that, whether you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show naturally or not, you don't know the long-term deleterious effects of getting your body down to that body fat level for an intermittent or even slightly, meaning 3 to 4 weeks, extended period of time. So that was my argument. And the internet didn't agree. Well, some of the internet agreed with me, but the people who yelled at me did not agree with me.
They didn't understand.
It's the internet.
Yeah, it's always the internet, right?
It's the internet.
So no, I competed. Now, mind you, both sides of my family, both mother and father, are from Italy. Okay. So one of the things that I hated more than anything else was trying to get rid of all the hair off my body.
My wife's Italian. I can attest. I'm just playing. My wife's she's not by any means a Sasquatch. Okay. That's what people.
Well, yeah. So Italian men, though, a little bit different.
No,
So
my brother-in-law, now he is. He's a
he is.
Sasquatch. Yeah.
Yeah. So between that, between all of the tanning and everything else he had to do, the posing trunks, it wasn't for me. But nonetheless, though, I saw how I transformed. I kind of fell in love with what I had done, how I had changed. Never even really thought about it prior to that point. And then from there, it kind of pushed me further into exercise science, went on to get my PhD, threw me into nutrition, went on to get my master's degree in it. And I've been doing it ever since. So well over 30 years since that point.
30 years. You got me beat. I'm at, what's 1999? I'm at 26 years in the health and fitness arena. Well, 97. So technically, if you count working in college, which you can count that, let's go 28. You got me beat. So the thing is, Chris Gethin says, knowledge without mileage is bullshit. And unless you actually experience, live it, and practice it, you can't just read it in a book. So there's something to be said for someone who's been at it for 30 plus years in being a student and a professor in something. So right there, you know, you've passed the test for should people listen to you. So I like to bring up something kind of environmental. You deal with health and wellness. Our country has 70% plus overweight. Now, these statistics are from 2017, before what my partner, Alan Roberts, calls the great fattening of 2020, where they locked people in their houses, closed gyms, and delivered fast food and alcohol to people's houses. So we're at plus 70% overweight, plus 40% obesity. So looking from an epidemiological standpoint, looking from a societal standpoint, what do you think we as a society can do to become more fit, to become more healthy, to become better, to ease the burden of obesity on society? What do you see from a big picture, just high level standpoint?
It's interesting you say society, but I'm going to say we need to take extreme ownership of it individually. There isn't going to be any help. If you're looking to be saved by government policy, if you're looking to be saved by big pharma, by big food, you're going to be waiting a long time. You're not going to be saved. But individually, people have to take the individual responsibility. And I know that sounds harsh and people kind of get turned off by hearing that, but ultimately it's tremendous freedom. If I know that I need nobody other than myself to take care of my health and fitness, oh my goodness, I would rather do that than have to depend upon other people. So take extreme ownership in it. And then you have to believe, of course, that you can pull this off. You would never be able to tie your shoes if you didn't believe that you could do it. So I don't want to sound like anybody's first grade teacher, but at the same point, you do have to take ownership of it, believe you can pull it off. And if you do that, you'll take care of yourself individually. And if we can get enough people to do that, we could start changing some of these statistics.
Yeah, I think looking at that, is there any... So going to that, you said that no one will do it for you. So I always like to get this opinion, and frankly, people want to hear about it. So you have these new GLP-1s, Ozempic, retatrutide, Wegovy, whatever you want to call them, all these different GLP-1s. Do you see them as a net positive or net negative on society as a whole?
As a shareholder, I'm going to say net positive.
Damn it. I should have bought in. Yeah.
So when they were coming to market, I figured it would be a big push in the U.S., and of course it is. Do I think it's needed? It's basically to answer your question, it's a net negative, but there are situations where you may use it. Kind of the same thing with any drug. Drugs were designed for extreme circumstances or very unique circumstances, not a blanket, let's put it in the water type of approach. You mentioned cholesterol earlier, and I can't think of a better drug of where they just want to drug everybody with statin medications. It was never designed for that, but it's become this big economic policy. So unfortunately, it doesn't help individuals, but it does help economics. And because of that, there's too much money behind it.
Yeah, I look at it kind of like I look at gastric bypass, and I've gotten in trouble for saying that. I think that if someone has exhausted every possible avenue, I think that's okay. Like you just can't lose the weight. Like, or you're not willing to try hard enough and you don't have the willpower to lose the weight. I think it has applications. But the problem is everyone I know who's gone on it, when they come off, they get even bigger. And that's what I've noticed. You have to stay on it for life. And I think that's by design. But I don't know if it's I think it's by design of the actual peptide. The peptide is there. And when it's elevated, you have those results, slow digestion, slow gastric emptying. But when you come off that naturally produced peptide, when you come off that bolus dose, you're naturally going to lack that inhibition. So if you do couple it with lifestyle changes, then it can be very beneficial long-term and you can come off. But you got to realize the people going on GLP-1s are normally a lot of people who make good lifestyle choices. So the question is it better to be obese or to take a GLP-1 long-term? And I'm erring on the side of taking GLP-1s long-term, but I would like to see people taper the dose as they go on, because with dose comes poison. You drink too much water, you get hypernatremia. So with the dose comes the poison. So I've seen people get phenomenal results when they actually titrate the dose up and down as needed. But again, the problem is even when they gave it to diabetics in the past, it was in a much lower dose. So we are the test group right now of what happens when you give a crazy high dose of GLP-1s over an extended period of time or even a lifetime. Like, we are the study group right now. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And also, too, it becomes psychological. It's a psychological crutch and an addiction where a person doesn't think they could ever succeed without it, which is great for the pharmaceutical companies. It's wonderful. You have a customer for forever. And these things in the United States are not cheap. We're talking about $1,200 per month. Now, the irony, though, is the only reason why it's $1,200 per month is, well, there's two reasons. Number one is because of the popularity in the United States. And number two is because health insurance covers it for the most part. In other countries where it is only over the counter, so it's free market over the counter, like in France, it's $57 a month.
Wow.
So this stuff is not $1,200 a month. It's a scam, like most things are in terms of the pricing model. Health insurance should not cover it, not for anyone, because that's what the pharmaceutical companies do the second that they sniff it. So you can see how this whole thing can snowball out of control. I do agree with you. Some people in these extreme situations probably should be on something along with the right other type of support. And that could be in the gym, it could be nutritionally, and really more than anything else, cognitive behavioral therapy. They need to know how to start working with their mind to help having better outcomes. So all of that can be wrapped into one, but just throwing it out there to everybody and wasting all of this money is catastrophic.
So tell me more about cognitive behavioral therapy. What do you mean by that?
So we're all given this brain, we're given this mind, but unfortunately, most of us aren't trained of how to use it to help ourselves. Yes, in the school systems, we were given subjects and it was all put into the curriculum. And oh my goodness, I'm great at spelling and I memorize history things and my English literature skills are really good. However, how do I help change my behavior through my thoughts and my actions? How do I do that? Is not a topic that most of us learned in school. So then it comes down to, well, then it's kind of the lucky lottery of who your parents were. Maybe you had a parent that knew something about it that could help. Many people didn't, though. So where do we learn really how to control our behaviors and therapies? So it's thrown into this whole thing of, well, you need some type of help. You need some type of therapist. You need some type of counselor. You need some type of psychologist, something like that to start unlocking it. However, unfortunately, we're already in a very dire state. So it's best to have a roadmap before you enter the woods than when you're stuck in the middle of the forest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how do you put that into practice? Let's say let's say you're someone who's overweight, maybe not obese. Let's say you got, what is obese? I forgot the exact numbers. Let's say you're 50 pounds overweight and your goal weight should be 180, you're 230. How would you put that into practice for someone who needs to lose that weight?
Well, the question then would be is how can we possibly help them? Am I qualified? Is somebody else qualified to help them, or can they help themselves? Now, unfortunately, when you start looking for therapists, there aren't a lot in any community now that really specializes in these types of things.
Yeah.
So it's tough getting a therapist. It's tough getting an appointment. It's tough to get somebody that specializes in this kind of thing. So unfortunately, it can be a little bit of a wild goose chase. What I would recommend to most people, though, is yes, they do have access to books and articles and the internet, and even YouTube could be a great source to start it on your own. Now, by saying that, I don't want to, once again, put somebody that's in a terrible situation to take it all on themselves, because they do need professional help. But most people aren't at that level. They're at a much more mild level in which they could do steps on their own to improve themselves. And heck, look, they're on YouTube and on everything else anyway. Why not look at something that can improve the mind? It's your behavior, it's your systems. Books have been written about it for years. You can improve no matter what the goal is and what the topic is.
Yeah, I look at that. It's so I always had trouble as a football player, as a boxer, as a bodybuilder, in empathizing with people. That's my main fault in life, is empathy. And I'm just being honest. Like, I can't lose weight. I can't stop eating this. I'm like, just stop eating it. Like, I think I have more faith in the human mind than humans have in the human mind. Like, I believe in people more than they believe in themselves. I'm like, I overate. I'm like, why not just stop eating? So for me, it was always contest dieting was easy for me, because I'm like, all right, I ate my food, I'm done. Like, and I was just, I'm a little bit hungry. Okay, just can't forget about that. But we're in such a convenient society that people have trouble saying no, because we don't have, like, what's crazy right now is that the fattest people in our society are the poorest people. Have you noticed that? Like, you go to Africa, you go to impoverished nations, they can't find food. They are starving. They have remember those videos of the bloated guts, and the kids in, Africa with the bloated guts from starvation, from their stomach just churning with hunger. And you look now, and the lowest socioeconomic population in this country are the fattest. And it comes down to ultra processed foods, highly palatable ultra processed foods, come down to just lack of education and what to eat. And then you get up the ladder socioeconomically, and that's your fittest populations. Like, I live in a very fit area of Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville, where, the median income's like $200K. Whereas you go to a neighborhood where the median income's $30K, and it's much, I mean, you could see a direct correlation, a linear correlation between average income and body fat levels or obesity rates. So it's really fascinating. It shows you that the food choices in a country that has an abundance, almost an overproduction of food, where we panic if eggs run out for a couple days. When the grocery store is full of $1 million of other inventory, we panic. We panic without food. So I think that, looking at it, we have a population that just, is sick due to the food choices, due to the ultra processed foods that are super caloric. What would be your thoughts on that and how to mitigate that?
Yeah, no, you had a lot in there to unpack, and I want to touch
Yeah.
on something that you said in there regarding your belief in your behavior. That's kind of what I said before. I don't want to sound like somebody's first grade teacher, but given what you've done between the bodybuilding and the football and the boxing, you've disciplined yourself. So you have a lot of belief in yourself, which is fantastic, and you've gone with it and you've run with it. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't have that type of exposure. They were never taught those things. So because of it, their belief in pulling something off is very low. I know a lot of people, just to give you an example here, humans, as we've evolved over the last 2.7 million years, we used to eat once every 5 to 8 days. So 5 to 8 days, and really you only had two choices. You could fish or hunt. That was it. That was well before agriculture. So you could fish or hunt every 5 to 8 days. So the body can go a long period of time without food. I know a lot of people that don't want to go 20 minutes. They don't get in the car. They don't want to get in their car without having extra food with them, just in case it's been like an hour since they've had something. They don't have any belief at all in the whole thing. So belief is super important. So take ownership of it and have the belief, which is what you have done in your career. And that's why you easily can do it now. Of course. So that exposure, I think, should really be in the school systems. Now, going back to the other question is, yes, without question, if you look at a population that is more obese or less obese, and you look at income does matter, because income correlates to a couple other things. Number one is what we just talked about, belief in accomplishing things. And the other thing, of course, is education. So typically the people with the higher income do have higher levels of education and belief. So it goes back to that yet again. They understand, they know how to play the game. They understand how to control themselves better. They're not going to gravitate towards the lowest common denominator. All of those things do matter. It is a thing. So once again, though, instead of having just government policy try to help us, because there's a lot of conflict in government policy.
The food pyramid.
There's a lot of influence and ingratiation and all of these crazy things, because it's an economic policy more than anything else. An individual has to make the choice on their own. I'm worth it. I believe in myself. I want to see myself improve. I'm important to myself. All of these things, once again, sound simple. It sounds like I'm talking at a very low level here, but it's critical. It's crucial in somebody's development that they want to improve and they believe in themselves that they can improve.
So as a parent, I have 3 children. So, and a lot of people watching this, as I've evolved, in social media, my followings become older and more likely to have children. So a lot of us go, well, how can I instill that in my children? Through me, it's through sport, that creates discipline. I had a rule. The only rule in my house, there was no solid rules. Like, I don't know how to parent. My kids have come out pretty good. I have my daughter, she's at a very prestigious university. I'm bragging. It's my kids. I'm going to brag. State champion soccer player. My 17-year-old just placed in state in wrestling. 12-year-old, 2-time state champion wrestling. Great football player. I think, and my rule is you have to play a team sport and participate in a combat sport. It started with soccer and boxing, evolved to wrestling. For my one kid just went all in on wrestling, football and wrestling. My daughter also wrestled, grabbed herself a regional title. So I look at it, sports for me takes away a lot of the parenting needs, because you're teaching a lot of the things that you're talking about with this cognitive development. You're teaching self-belief, you're teaching teamwork, you're teaching discipline. And I think those habits can play itself where your brain gets used to these habits. So it's easy to apply them to school. It's easy to apply them to your job. It's easy to apply them to your relationships. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I have 3 kids as well, so I hear you with that. It's interesting too, because if you remember during the early days of General Electric, when they were booming in the 1960s and 70s, they would only hire. This was during the time of McNamara, the Whiz Kids, and everything over at General Electric. They would only hire out of school if somebody played in a team sport. Because they had to communicate. So a couple things. They had to be able to communicate. They had to be able to perform. And also, to no matter what team sport you play, you're not always in the lead. Sometimes you're behind, and you have to be able to persevere without giving up. So they're great lessons. They're wonderful, especially if you're raising kids. I think that's very smart to do that. But let's say that you're past that age. Let's say your kids are past that age. How do you handle it then? Well, unfortunately, I can't take too many 50, 60, 70-year-olds and throw them into, a soccer team somewhere, or, play in a football league. It just doesn't exist, nor would they be able to do it. So we have to look at other just different types of approaches in order to start helping these folks. And there's many different ways to do it. So yes, we're always looking for ways to improve if the person themselves wants to improve as an adult. Kids, we can guide their path. And I'm all for everything that you just mentioned, because I do the same thing with my kids.
Yeah, it was the best decision I ever made, because I don't know what I'm doing as a parent. I mean, I'm a bro. I grew up in a weird household, so I'm like, well, sports. It takes, and I'm a coach, so it's like I'm just a meathead strength coach. So I'm like, well, this makes sense to me, and it's worked out so far. We'll see what the future tells, but it's really fun to watch athletic kids, learn these things as they go and overcome. And the thing is, sports will throw adversity. Nothing's more embarrassing or teaches you humility like getting pinned in front of all your friends and getting dominated on a wrestling mat. I like the losses as much as I like the wins, because it's a life lesson. You have to overcome those things. So I really enjoy that. But I want to talk about supplements. I actually want to pull up, you do have a cool website. You sell a lot of cool things. And I wanted, before we forget, we'll get into the conversation. I always forget to bring this up, but let me bring this up right here. All right. So you have your entire supplement line, but it's not like a supplement line. It's like a health product line which is really cool. You have salad dressing, you have mac oil, you got MCT, you have, I mean, fish oil. This isn't your normal, like, okay, here's pre-workouts, here's this, here's that. Now you do have some supplement stuff, but these are mostly health items and healthy oils. Can you go into why you did this assortment and why they're different and why they're cool?
Yeah, so Strength Genesis was put together just because I wanted products for myself. Very self-driven in this whole thing. It was all about me. So I started making products that I wanted personally. It started after I read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body. In the book, Tim talked about the new olive oil, and I didn't know what that was. But once again, as I mentioned, both sides of my family were from Italy, and we had a lot of olive oil. So I read about this new olive oil, which is this Australian macadamia nut oil. And he talked about how it had even higher levels of linoleic acid, which is omega-3 and omega-9 fatty acid, which is super healthy for the body. It doesn't go rancid. It doesn't increase any inflammation. It's high heat stable. Olive oil will break down at 350 degrees. This is 513 degrees, and it has a sweet, buttery taste to it. So I bought some for myself, fell in love with it, started buying some more for clients. They fell in love with it. The distributor I was trying to get it from over the next couple of years went out of business, contacted the refinery. They told me they only sell by the metric ton.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I just wanted some bottles. They told me they only sell by the metric ton. So then I became an importer. I got into the macadamia nut oil, cold pressed macadamia nut oil. And honestly, it is like the world's greatest cooking oil. Delicious, fantastic, high heat, stable. So that is where I started in the business. I moved on from there. People wanted a salad dressing that, get this, doesn't have to be refrigerated after opening. And it sounds like it would be less healthy by not refrigerating it, but I can tell you this, it's more healthy, because the only reason why you have to put salad dressing in the fridge is because they have bad rancid oil, soybean oil, canola oil, or cut olive oil. When you make something out of 100% extra virgin olive oil, you do not have to refrigerate olive oil, put it right on the counter. So I put together a keto Mediterranean dressing that has been beyond popular. I have not been able to keep it in stock over the last 6 months. It's become that popular, and it's delicious, won't change your blood glucose level or sugar at all, no insulin needed, so you could drop a lot of body fat and use it. So those were the types of products that I wanted. I wanted to scour the world for the best possible ingredients. And then secondly, I wanted to put it all in the best container and packages. So when you walk into a health food store, you're flooded by all of this plastic. All of the protein containers are these big obnoxious plastic tubs. All of the supplements, all of the pills, all of the capsules are all in plastic. Plastic is a petroleum byproduct. That petroleum leaks back into the food. We have microplasticity. It increases dementia risk, cancer risk. It increases estrogen levels, body fat. It's awful for the human body. So we put everything in sustainable packaging of glass, metal, or paper, better for the body and better for the planet.
Yeah, Dr. Anmal Kapoor, it was crazy. I had him on here, and you'd love him. I got to introduce you to. He is a cardiologist in Canada, and I'm like, what is the one thing you would do for your health? He's like, stop eating the plastic. And it went, that's soundbite. That's a shirt. I mean, he's Indian. So that was my best Dr. Anmal Kapoor. Not racist at all. That's just how he sounded to me. And I'm like, whoa, wait. So he thinks the number one issue for heart is plastics. And it gets in your system. It's a foreign invader. Your body attacks it. And your body kind of tries to combat this issue that you're having with the plastics. So he's huge on the plastics. That is his one thing. And they found microplastics in the testicles. They found it in the heart. They found it in the organs. It's a huge problem that we need to deal with, is the microplastics. And I think just looking into that is okay. I'm not saying like avoid plastic. Obviously avoid cooking in plastic. That's number one, because you heat it up and it just leaches into your food. But it was amazing when he said that. I was taken aback. I was stunned when he said plastics are the main issue.
Yeah, and that's the heart. Yeah,
how do you bring that up?
Yeah, that's the heart. The brain as well, the dementia, which can lead to the Alzheimer's, cancer expression, all of those things. Now, Marc, being in the industry as long as you have, I mean, think about how many times you've had protein powder in these big plastic tubs. Now, maybe
Yeah.
you go into a local store to buy it, but maybe chances are you just order it online and it shows up at your house, right? You probably have done that thousands of times, I would imagine, over the years. That plastic tub, you think, well, okay,
Yeah.
no big deal, but it's sitting in the back of a UPS truck. And that temperature is not stable. And you live in
Yeah.
Tennessee. What type of temperatures do you guys get in the summertime?
It gets hot. It's not Florida, but it gets hot.
It gets hot. And inside that UPS truck, it's 120 degrees in the back of that UPS truck.
Ugh.
So that plastic breaks down. It's everything from the protein containers, the capsules, our water bottles that we drink from. All of it gets into the food that we then consume.
It absolutely does. I mean, it's something I'm looking into more now than ever. It's definitely something we need to look into. It's something we need to pay attention to.
It's a big deal. So that was the other part of the whole thing. As I wanted to put it in much better containers. By much better, it costs us a fortune to use these containers. But in my opinion, I'm not going to skimp on food. There's things that you might skimp on. I don't necessarily need the latest fashion of something. I don't need to buy jewelry. I don't need those things. But I'm not going to skimp on food. I'm not going to skimp on food or sleep. Those two things for sure I'm not going to skimp on. So I believe in making sure that I'm consuming, because I'm putting it directly into my body, something that is not just the highest quality source of the ingredient, but also too in the safest source of the ingredient. So we put everything, of course, in glass, in metal, or in paper.
Makes total sense. I mean, it does make sense. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, oh, yeah, we really need to start paying attention to plastics. And the more I talk to people, like this podcast is a selfish thing of mine. The more I talk to people, the more I realize that, yeah, we need to start paying attention to this. When experts start saying it and they're not bought and paid for by big glass, it's like, oh, so what are your opinions on seed oils? So those are things that if you look at the large epidemiological studies, seed oils actually outperform things like butter so they just did, it was a recent study done last month, I believe, where they found that a well-performed study, they found that butter increases CVD in heavy users by like 15 to 20%, whereas seed oils decreases or increases your chance of CVD for, by like 15, 20%. So we're seeing these conflicting things where the mainstream market or the niche market, let's say, is like seed oils are bad, but the data is saying seed oils are good. How do you reconcile with seed oils?
I'm not a fan of it. In fact, it's funny. I thought you were going to talk about just another study that came out last week. In fact, I'll read the title: Fat in common cooking oils linked to aggressive breast cancer.
Really? Okay. Well, there's one against it. We found the one.
Yeah, it's against.
I haven't seen that study.
Yeah, it just came out. In fact, I wrote an article on it just today alone, talking about how, once again, those oils were developed because they're shelf stable. So the canola oil, the vegetable oil, the soybean oil, the grapeseed oil, all of those oils, safflower, sunflower oil, seed oils, were developed because they will last forever. But the problem is they're very temperamental, and if you don't refrigerate them, if you exceed the smoke point of them, they will start breaking down. And the breaking down and the oxidation will become rancid, and it will start breaking down in your body. And this article that just came out last week, it was in the March 14th in Science magazine, which is a big magazine. It's a huge magazine, very well studied. Talked about how it expresses breast cancer. So that was just one aspect of it. Yes, I agree with what you said, because I think there's a lot of conflict and there's a lot of influence still of seed oils. But without question, we were healthier and better off before them, and we will be in the future without them.
Yeah, I want to show you. This is my buddy just came out with this bar. Let me bring this up. So it's the Nula bar. It has 0 seed oils, 20 grams of protein. It's all natural ingredients. It's actually a pretty cool bar. It's delicious too. I'll send you some, but it's a really cool bar.
Nice.
And if you and I mean it's nut butter based, 0 seed oil. So if you look at this, like if you just look at the ingredients, it's pretty cool. It's got milk protein isolate, fiber salt, which is a great form of fiber, allulose syrup, which is a fiber, essentially, almond butter, cocoa powder, natural flavors, salt, and stevia. The other flavor doesn't have stevia even. It's good. But I mean, what's happening is the market is reading it. And they're like, if we can formulate things without, so we don't, and I think that's where people mistook RFK and his Make America Healthy Again movement. He's not going to, he might ban a couple food dyes that are weird, but he's not going to go out and ban certain things. He's just going to create an atmosphere. You got to realize a lot of the reasons that these things are doing so well is because the cost, right? Like it's cheap because the government subsidies that actually props up the ingredient in highly palatable, ultra processed foods. So if the market demands something, people will make it. Like you were the market at one point. You're like, I need some of this mac oil, right? I need some of this stuff. So you're like, I like this. I'm going to buy it for my friends. And your friends are like, I like this. And they're like, I could actually sell this and help a lot of people out. And a market was created. We don't need the government to necessarily come in and change anything or outlaw anything. We don't need to go full on, tyrannical on it. We don't need to ban foods. What we need to do is stop subsidizing bad behaviors. And we do that. Like this country has a way, like, oh, you don't work, the government provides for you, subsidizing a bad behavior. And the unemployment process is broken. The welfare system is broken. So we're in a society where we incentivize bad behavior. And that's what we're doing. The same thing we're doing societally. And you look at states that are having trouble right now, it's because they reward bad behavior. I'm a Californian, man. I grew up in LA. I'm straight up Cali. I still have a business in Costa Mesa. Orange County's kind of different. But if you look at them, they have a 10% exit rate every year. Look at Illinois, right? The great Chicago, over 10% exit rate. Look at all these states that try to do these policies where you reward bad behavior. People are leaving to come to states like Tennessee where they reward good behavior, where you could keep more of what you have, where you have no state tax. We're getting penalized for making money. It's one of those things where if we did the same thing with foods, hey, look, we're not going to ban this, but we're also not going to make it where the manufacturers are forced to use these ingredients to be cost competitive because we're going to subsidize this entire industry. That's what I see it as. I see it as money. Like I see it as big agro, whatever you want to call it, where it's just money, where you have someone like Clean Farm Nutrition who's like, you know what? I don't have a problem. I don't mind. I don't look at labels. I'm like, no, see, I'm not that guy. I'm not. I have bigger things to worry about. I look at the overall macronutrient, micronutrient intake. If I get a few milligrams of seed oils, I don't care. Right. But at the same time, if I'm going to cook, if I'm going to heat something up, and look at when they fry food, right? Like they're not just putting that oil in there, peanut oil or whatever you're using. You're not just putting it at the beginning. You're frying it over and over and over, and it's oxidizing and oxidizing and oxidizing. By the time you're in your last batch, you're essentially selling poison,
You're selling a carcinogenic agent, which is a cancer-forming agent. Yeah, no, without question, if the market does demand this, which is I think where you're going with it,
yes,
if the market does demand it, the manufacturers are going to make it. And I agree. I'm a food manufacturer. We manufacture food supplements, which is what we did here. If the market demands it, I'm going to make more. Right? It's that simple. It's that straightforward. Subsidies, and I agree with everything that you said. Look, I live in New York State, which is very similar to California.
Oh my God, how do you do it?
I know, but I live on the other side of the state. So I live in Buffalo, right?
Okay, which has did you see, on an aside, like I was in Buffalo for a soccer tournament for my daughter when she was in high school, and we were walking through the town square. This after COVID, so it wasn't like everybody was locked down, and you could literally see, it was like a tumbleweed blowing down the road. And then I'm like, but Buffalo, people don't understand how much history is in that city. Buffalo is an amazing city. The population was at a peak of like 300,000. Now it's at like 55,000. So the exit in Buffalo I can understand it's really cold up there. But when I look at Buffalo, I'm like, wow, that city was the history. If you've never been to Buffalo, just go. The people are nice. I love Buffalo, by the way, but go on.
Yeah, no, in fact, we always say Buffalo, we're a city of good neighbors.
Yes,
So
you are.
Buffalonians take care of each other. But make no mistake, it is not the health and fitness capital of the world.
No,
It's
it's
not.
too cold. You can't be lean up there. You'll freeze to death.
You have to be like an Eskimo, right? Yeah, no doubt about it. But I understand with what you're saying with the subsidies, where the monies are going. It's an economic policy much more than a health policy. Look, we spend more money on healthcare than all of the other countries in the world combined, and our life expectancy is 71st. Think about that. That's just mind-boggling. Other than either we're doing it really, really wrong or we're doing it really, really right on purpose, just so life expectancy is low and economic value is high. So there's a lot to that whole thing, and I do agree with you. RFK, once again, personally, guys like you, guys like me, we like the direction of it. It makes more sense to us.
Yes.
I get the fact that he has some other personal things going on in this whole thing, but I do like the directionality of this whole thing. It seems to be a better situation than where we came from.
You're saying you've never killed a bear and dumped it in Central Park? Come on. Who hasn't done that?
Twice last week, yeah.
It's not that, it's only a few hours for you. For me, I have to fly the bear,
Right.
or it's a really long trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely, look, man, I was the biggest, I met RFK. I was up in Maine on vacation, and I've been, obviously if someone wants to make America healthy, I'm going to listen. And we were just happened to be killing time before dinner. And he was actually, we just went to a lighthouse, and we were in our, for me, my Sunday best isn't the best, right? Like polo shirt, whatever. And my wife goes, hey, we're walking, and I'm ADHDing out. I'm looking out at squirrels and trees and lighthouses. And she goes, hey, it's RFK. I thought she was playing with me. Right. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And she's like, no, seriously, it's RFK. And I look over, and there's RFK, and he's doing this like speech on something, like it was a big announcement. And he's just setting up, and I'm like, I'm not a guy. If I see I don't care if I see, I don't fawn over famous people, but he does. A couple of my buddies work out with him when he's in LA, and I've interacted with him, and he ended up using me in one of his ads because I was the one who came up with Make America Healthy Again. I'm the first one to print clothing with that on the clothing. So it's actually my tagline, and he ended up using me in an ad, but I'm like, I went up in his, he had like a few security guards, and I was like, okay, I just stood next to security guard. I looked at him. He looked at me, realized I wasn't crazy. I didn't have blue hair. So he's like, all right. So he looks at, hey, Robert, and RFK comes over. Nicest guy. We talked about bench press. Then he just walks right by me, goes and talks to my kids, hands them little RFK, 24 buttons. He's an awesome guy. Look, man, I know that he's gone out of favor because America is so tribal. This is a lifetime Democrat, right? Like, this is a guy who I believe he really wants to make America healthy, and he lives by the sword. The guy is in great shape. The TV does him no justice. Like, even in the long sleeve shirt, you can tell this guy's jacked. He's healthy. He just looks, especially at his age, like if I'm like RFK at his age, I'm like, I did something right. So I'm a huge fan of the Maha movement, unapologetically. I wear the hat all the time. I like where it's going, and I like how we're asking the questions. Look, I don't know or care where you stood on the COVID vaccine. Not my issue. I didn't take it. Wouldn't take it. My family didn't take it. In Tennessee, we didn't have to take it. Obviously I own a business. I had no employer forcing me to take it. So I understand if people were, but all my kids have all their vaccinations. Like when they were born, we didn't even question it, but I like how why can't we do more studies? I don't know why he's anti-vax. No, he's actually not. He just wants to study them and make sure that they're not causing anything weird. Measles outbreaks in Texas, like a month after it was RFK. I'm like, so he just went back in time and unvaccinated people? Come on. Like, it's so tribal, it's wild. We should be doing these studies. We should be figuring these things out. And look, we've made errors in the past. In the early 1900s, if you had any mental disorder, they literally did a frontal lobotomy. They took a stick and they just did this in the front of your head, and that was their cure for psychiatric disorders. So science evolves, and I really like where we're going. I think we need to question these things. We need to figure out why America is so fat.
Did you license the Maha logo?
So I have usage trademark, but I'm not gonna imagine how bad it would be for my brand if I sued the healthy guy. Like, that wouldn't be good. Like, RFK, everyone can use it. Don't care. Like, at the end of the day, we should all have that as a saying. That should be everyone's saying we want to make America healthy again. Was America ever truly healthy? Maybe, maybe not. But if you look at a picture of Central Park or of any place in the 70s, you're hard pressed to find a fat person. Now, someone of like you and me, we look weird because we're not fat. Like, wow, that guy's in shape. You shouldn't be noticed for being in shape. You should be noticed for being out of shape. But it's so weird for anyone to be in shape, being that there's only 30% or less of the population that's actually in shape, that you're the weird one now. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right though, with the rewarding of bad behaviors and so on and so forth. No, I get it, and I understand that people are at different points in their journey. I try as much as I can to help influence people, no matter where they are, but in a positive way, because you always want to see people improve once they make the personal decision to do it. Once again, I think, though, at a big societal level, it's hard because of all of these existing beliefs that people already have. That's why it's kind of like smoking, right? We knew about smoking and how bad tobacco was for a long time. But if you watched how we've gotten to where we are now, unfortunately, you had to put the resources in the youngest part of the population. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So all of the education, all of the money, all the resources had to go with younger. We did the same thing too with seatbelt use. Okay, if you're 55, 60, 65, 70, maybe you never wear a seatbelt, but let's start educating the young people. So I think it's very similar to both of those things, where I would love to see the money go into the schooling, into the school systems, to start it when they're younger, so that as they do get older, they already have it. In less or fewer resources on a person that's older, they need to make the decision themselves. Not trying to exclude anybody, but at the same time, you only have limited resources. Where do you put them?
The problem with the schools is they tend to get it wrong. Like, they taught us the food pyramid. So the problem is, now hopefully RFK gets in and gets some more sensible guidelines for what it is people should do and eat. I'm guessing you're not a huge fan of the food pyramid.
No, it's a disaster.
It is. I'm more of a Mediterranean diet guy. You're Italian. I don't know. You seem to be Mediterranean-ish based on what we've talked about. Yeah, a few of my doctors, like Dr. Ovadia, he's a carnivore guy, believe it or not. He's a heart doctor. So that's hard for me to grasp, but I understand it. It's what he's found works in his patients. And the carnivore diet, for me, it's hard to mess up, right? Like, you eat meat, you're eating whole food. So most people coming from ultra processed junk, if they simply switch to whole foods, yeah, you're going to do much better. Whether it's a sweet potato or a steak, you're going to do better than a Twinkie. Whereas, a lot of cardiologists I see, they're not, for a while, it seemed like everybody was going vegan. Now we're like, no, we need meat. We need protein. The new data, the new research on sarcopenia and aging and strength and morbidity risk, I think everybody realizes it's really difficult to get enough adequate protein. Have to plug the #1 plant protein vitamin shop. Planta is my brand. Yep, there you go. Available at Sprouts, Vitamin Shop, GNC, Hy-Vee. Anyway, had to do it. We did it for you. I had to do it for myself. It's very hard to get enough protein in when you're a vegan. And I think we realize the value of protein. You have, old Dr. Peter Attia, you have Huberman, all these people preaching, Rhonda Patrick, 1 gram per pound of body weight daily. So I still feel the Mediterranean diet's the healthiest diet if you're looking at an exact, not like customizing for you, but if I'm going to pick the best popular diet, it's Mediterranean. What's your diet strategy?
So I do agree, by the way, and yes, I am Mediterranean. And Mediterranean is basically this. I alluded to it before. So for the first 2.7 million years, you could fish or hunt. That was it. So you might say that diet is carnivore or that diet is keto. And yes, it is both of those. Agriculture came later, and agriculture came because we were trying to build up stockpiles of food when food was scarce. And we wanted to fatten ourselves intentionally, and that's how we got into the grains and the corns. Because for every 10 pounds of fat you have on your body, you could go 17 days without food.
Wow.
Every 10 pounds, 17 days without food. So the more fat you have, the longer you could go without eating. In fact, if you want to know, the Guinness Book of World Record, the longest fast was 382 days.
Wow. I would last about 4 days.
4 days. Yeah.
Yeah. I have trouble holding fat. My metabolism's ridiculous. It's annoying. My wife hates me, but yeah, I have that my brother does too. My 17-year-old does as well. There's some, so the thing is, back in those times, we would have died. We wouldn't be here. Like, you got to realize also, if you're been now, I want to get your thoughts on this. I think a lot of our evolving as humans, the people who are able to hold on to fat were more likely to be able to go a while without food through famine. They're the ones who survived. So the people who couldn't go as long without food, they pretty much perished.
Well, yes, but also though too, what you would have just done is you would have fished and hunted more frequently.
Yeah, true.
Right? So if you do have more muscle tissue and you have more muscle tissue, you would have been a better hunter, better fisherman.
I never looked at it like that. Yeah, you're right. I might have not died. That's comforting.
Yeah.
So if I ever go back to the future and I'm hunting woolly mammoths, I'll be able to make it.
Dinosaurs. Yeah, we want to hunt dinosaurs, right? So
I mean, that'd be tough.
You just have more muscle tissue, but also you needed more muscle tissue at that point because everything you did was very manual. What else could you do? There was no convenience that we have nowadays. So yeah, I think that's the original diet. Mediterranean works though because it does integrate carbs, but it's really starting from vegetables. For vegetable-based carbs, yes, there's some fruits and nuts in there too, but it's easier for people to stay compliant with a Mediterranean diet than to take somebody and say, you got to do pure keto or you got to do pure carnivore. It would kind of be like this. So to me, keto and carnivore are not wrong. It would be like doing calculus. Now, that's fine if you're good at math, but if you're not good at math, I'm not going to put you in calculus, where Mediterranean is maybe more middle school math. There's some carbs, it's easier to do. You got some fruit, you got some nuts, you got some things like that. However, most people, they're in kindergarten. They're getting this ultra processed foods. They're having a lot of high glycemic index carbs. Everything's out of a box or out of a can or out of a bag. And they're the furthest thing in the world from a carnivore or keto diet, so they can't stay with it for long. And that's why the failure rate of keto is 11 days. So if a person does do keto, if they're not advanced, they won't make it really past 11 days. So I think Mediterranean gives people the flexibility, and it's a little bit easier to do than some of these other diets.
All right. So in respect of your time, I know we're a little bit over, but I have one more question on resistance training and cardiovascular training. And obviously this is what you do. So it's going to be great to get your perspective. When looking at a mix, let's say I'm taking a 7-day week and I'm looking at integrating a nice exercise profile for both longevity, to look good, to be lean, to perhaps mitigate some blood pressure, cholesterol markers. What would be a exercise structure, like cardio one day, weights the other day? Is there any like ideal week or your version of ideal week that someone could subscribe to?
So most of the people I work with now are over the age of 45 and they're trying to lose body fat and they're not overly advanced with their training. So I always look at it like school. What is my student? Who am I dealing with? Are they advanced? Are they more beginner? Do they have any type of limitations or joint issues or something like that? So I think for most people, a 3 time per week, 12 time per month program can work very well. The days per week don't matter as much as frequency per month. That matters a little bit more. So we're looking for about 12, 13 strength training workouts that do incorporate major muscle groups, and the program does change and progress. Whether you do cardio during that session or do it on separate days, it really doesn't matter. It's really more based upon your time at that point. So if you have more time, I think you could get it all done at one point. If you do have to break it up, though, not the end of the world. Do strength training one day, do cardio the next day.
All right. So 12 times, that's right there. I usually recommend 2 to 3 days of weight training a week, as the bare minimum. I don't think you need to go over 5. And if you're strength training more than 5 days, like your body's I can't do it. And I'm a professional. Like my body, if I go more than 2 days in a row, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, cause I train pretty hard. Cardiovascular, high intensity versus low intensity workouts. Do you work sprints into your programs or just low intensity?
Yeah, no, I think it once again depends where you are. If I'm dealing with somebody and I have 30 something clients above 70, I'm not doing high intensity anything.
No.
So it kind of depends who you're working with. I do personally like high intensity training for myself and people that are younger and more fit. But as long as you're elevating the heart rate for a period of time, you're going to get some benefits from it. And I'm going to leave it lastly on this note. When you do strength training, which is anaerobic training, there is an aerobic cardio benefit to it. So a lot of people will get the cardio benefit from doing the strength training. However, and you know this because you're a professional in this field, it doesn't work in reverse. I can't get an anaerobic benefit from walking. I can't get an anaerobic benefit from, doing the stationary bike. I just can't. So focus on strength training as a priority if you must choose one, but do both for better outcomes.
And get more steps. Just move. I know 10,000, they pull that number out of their butt for a Japanese marketing campaign, if anybody knows the history of that. But I still think it's valid. I still think you shoot for 10. That way, worst case, you get 6 to 8. And they're like, no, 8,000 is optimal. I'm like, cool, whatever. Go for 10. Because if you go for 10, at least you'll hit 8. Like, shoot for the stars, right? But anyway, so I'm going to bring up your site one more time. Just let you know where they can find you. It is strengthgenesis.com. Be sure to support my guys. So where can they find you?
I have all my social media handles on strengthgenesis.com as well. So you can connect with us through Instagram, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through email, right there at strengthgenesis.com.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming on, man. I'd love to have you back on. So many things. I mean, the good thing about you is you kind of know a lot of everything. So there's nothing we can't touch, whether it's societal, whether it's diet, whether it's training. You got it down. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on. Guys, be sure to buy something from him. I'm blatant about that. If you want to see cool guests, they need to see some benefit from it. So if people come on the show and they're like, hey, I sold like 100 friggin' orders. I'm like, cool, great. Support him. That'd be fantastic. And of course, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and be a part of it. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on. I look forward to having you back on.
Mark, anytime. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you, sir. Have a great rest of your day. Have you ever started a diet and felt even worse? Well, that's normal. Your body's not used to eating the high protein and the adequate fiber because you're eating junk food with a lot of calories. The bottom line is your body needs to get used to it. And the way your body gets used to it is it adapts. Now, what we want to do is help you adapt even quicker so you can live your healthiest life ever. And one way we do that is with a product called Ambrosia Flora. Now, Flora is a probiotic, prebiotic, and digestive enzyme. A lot of products, they just use one of the three. We use all three because we want to make sure that your body has everything it needs to help digest all this wonderful protein. And also, the thing about protein is you need to assimilate it. Your body needs to absorb it. By having Flora, you're able to add these wonderful things into your diet, start your healthy lifestyle, get a gram of protein per pound of body weight, which is what you really need, and start reaping the benefits of living the healthiest life possible. So with your gut in place, feeling good, eating good, looking good, here's to Flora, your new health journey, absorbing all the protein you drink and becoming the healthiest you ever. Cheers to that.